Have you ever heard the saying, if you want to make money, you have to work. But if you're working, you'll never have time to make money. Have you ever wondered why the more you work, the harder money seems to come? Why you're grinding, calculating, planning, while others appear to make money effortlessly? And have you ever considered that maybe the problem isn't you, but the way the whole system is built? In this video, I'll show you the invisible forces that make earning money harder, why making money was designed to be this difficult, and why so many people feel like they're running, but never moving forward. I'm not here to motivate you. I'm not giving you tricks. I'm going to show you how the system actually works. Because once you understand why earning money feels so hard, everything finally starts to make sense. They told you the rules are the same for everyone. The same education, the same jobs, the same effort, the same chances. That's a lie. The system is not neutral. It never was. Some people start with money. Some start with connections. Some can afford to fail. Most people get none of that. You're told to work harder while being pushed into invisible limits. Limits nobody talks about. How much risk you're allowed to take, how many times you're allowed to fail, how much time you're given to recover. If you don't pay your rent, you're in trouble, immediately. If they don't pay, nothing happens. When you fail, it's personal. When they fail, it's strategy. This isn't injustice, it's position. The system doesn't reward effort. It never did. Your position decides how fast you're allowed to move, how much pressure you can survive, and how expensive a single mistake will be. You're not behind because you don't work hard enough. You're behind because you started from the wrong line. And no amount of extra work, no amount of motivation will change that. There's something no one explains honestly. Failure is not priced the same. Mistakes aren't punished equally, they're priced based on who makes them. When you get it wrong, the cost is immediate. You hesitate and income stops. You miscalculate and there's no buffer. You fall once and there's no recovery window. Your mistake isn't growth, it's exposure. For others, failure plays by different rules. A wrong move becomes tuition. A failed project becomes a line item. Damage stays contained. If something collapses for them, they pivot. If it collapses for you, everything resets. This is what most people miss. Failure isn't an abstract concept. It isn't learning or experience. It costs time you can't replace, pressure you carry alone, and risk you can't distribute. That's why embrace failure only works for some. The real question isn't courage, it's capacity. When things go wrong, does the structure around you hold, or does it cave in? In a world where failure has different prices, bravery is unevenly distributed. Those who can't afford mistakes don't gamble. Those who don't gamble don't advance. This has nothing to do with mindset, it's about exposure. And until this is acknowledged, every success story is incomplete. You've been told time is your greatest resource. Manage it better, optimize harder, wake earlier. That story only works if time belongs to you. For most people, it doesn't. In survival mode, time is already allocated before you touch it. Hours are locked into rent, bills, obligations, staying solvent. There is no free time here, only remnants, and remnants don't compound. You're told to invest time, but investment requires margin, and margin is exactly what disappears first. Without money, time becomes compression. Delays create stress. Pauses feel dangerous. That's why bad deals get accepted. That's why exits get postponed. That's why people stay longer than they should. Not from laziness, from pressure. For others, time behaves differently. They don't exchange it to survive, they deploy it. They can wait, they can stall, they can let outcomes ripen. Their time compounds, yours expires. And here's the part rarely admitted. Time freedom isn't something you chase. It shows up after pressure is gone. Before that, productivity advice is noise. Time isn't taken from you. The chance to ever own it is. As long as time must be sold, you're not building forward, you're maintaining equilibrium. You think you earn money. What you actually receive is oxygen. A salary isn't cash flow, it's life support. It keeps systems running, not people advancing. That design is deliberate. There's a term rarely discussed, wage optimization. Pay isn't tuned for growth, it's calibrated for continuation. Enough to cover essentials and reach the next cycle. Not enough to accumulate leverage, absorb risk, or step away. That threshold isn't accidental. Instability is bad for systems. Dependency isn't. Occupied people don't plan exits. They don't test alternatives. They don't build redundancies. A salary enforces rhythm. It can't scale. It can't pause. It can't absorb shock. Every month resets the board. Money is spent before it arrives. That's why "one day I'll save enough" never materializes. The structure prevents it. Trying to escape through wages means competing inside the same frame that limits you. Not because you lack effort, but because wages don't create leverage. They maintain function. Cash flow isn't air, it's positioning. Without it, you're moving, but not steering. There's a point where effort stops producing progress and starts maintaining balance. Hard work is sold as a ladder, something you climb. In reality, it behaves like momentum without direction. Speed increases, output improves, responsibility expands, position stays fixed. The longer you perform well, the more expectations adapt around you. Endurance becomes normal. Availability becomes assumed. Competence becomes containment. Reliability is rewarded with more load. Hard work here isn't a tool, it's a filter. It identifies those who execute consistently and keeps them exactly where execution is needed. That's why pressure doesn't lift. Not because you haven't arrived, but because arrival was never part of the design. Adaptation is incentivized. Breakthrough isn't. Fatigue isn't questioned. Recovery isn't scheduled. Only readiness matters. That's why motion never resolves into arrival. This isn't a path with a destination. It's a mechanism requiring constant output. And in that mechanism, the real risk isn't underperformance, it's efficiency. Eventually, progress stops being the issue. Access does. Most people don't stall because they slow down. They stall because exits quietly vanish. Early on, flexibility exists. Mistakes are absorbable. Switches are possible. But each year under pressure hardens something. Costs lock in. Decisions solidify. Commitments stop being reversible. From there, capability matters less than constraints. What defines your future is no longer what you can do, but what you can't afford to try. Time without income becomes impossible. Restarting from zero becomes catastrophic. Waiting becomes destructive. Not by choice, by structure. From that point, decisions stop expanding options. They start eliminating them. Safety narrows the field. Compromise seals pathways. These aren't poor choices, they're coerced ones. So acceleration never happens. Not from slowness, but from lack of remaining directions. No barrier appears, no rejection arrives. Options simply exhaust. And when only one route remains, routine feels like stability. Work, pay, repeat. That's not balance. That's closure without announcement. At this point, clarity matters more than motivation. There are 3 shifts. Miss one, nothing changes. First, stop trading time directly. As long as income depends on presence, control is limited. The goal isn't more hours, it's building something detached from them. Package knowledge, asynchronous output, systems that persist. Without that, exits remain theoretical. Second, create a second income source, even an imperfect one. Not for security, for asymmetry. Its role isn't comfort, it's reducing exposure. Even small, slow, or unstable income breaks total dependence. That's not a career move, it's a pressure release. Third, accept a temporary downgrade. Escape doesn't begin with expansion, it begins with imbalance. Less certainty, more volatility, reduced comfort, but direction returns. Refusing this phase guarantees stasis. Remember this, freedom doesn't start with earning more. It starts with refusing everything. That's the first real shift. From there, the game changes. This wasn't built to transform your life overnight, and it wasn't meant to. Content often lies here, implying that insight equals resolution. It doesn't. What happened instead is simpler and harder. Illusions were removed. The idea that persistence alone would flip outcomes, that patience would eventually convert pressure into progress. It won't. That's not pessimism, that's release. Knowing what fails removes weight. You stop internalizing outcomes. You stop comparing mismatched trajectories. You stop justifying choices with imagined futures. From here, the question changes. Not how to push harder, but what to discontinue. Real change doesn't start with addition. It starts with subtraction. This process is slow, uncomfortable, unimpressive, but it's real. No universal solution was offered because none exists. What was offered is rarer. Not every route advances. Some only loop. Once that's visible, it doesn't disappear. This isn't an ending, it's a line. And crossing it permanently alters perspective. That's sufficient. If this video made you think, if it showed you a world you always felt was real but no one ever dared to explain, then you're exactly where you need to be. Fake Off Luxury isn't about admiration, it's about revelation. We uncover the systems the elite will never discuss and reveal what luxury really means behind the curtain. If you're ready to see more, subscribe, give it a like, turn on notifications, and stay with us. Because in this world, those who know the rules play a completely different game.